Hello everyone, welcome to my weekly messages. I'm Jelaila Star. Hello. Kind of tripped over those words there for a second. You can tell it's hot here because we're in short sleeves or no sleeves. It went from like 65 to 89 in like one day. So it's just crazy. I've been out trying to get the lawn done, so I'm a little... Okay, but I wanted to get this out to you guys today. It's the first in what could be a series on motherhood. And in particular, what we're talking about today is children failing to launch. Sort of like, birds when they're supposed to leave the nest, but they're afraid to launch, they're afraid to take off, and fly on their own and go out and start their life. Well, there's a lot of children these days in their 20s, in their 20s who, and sometimes 30s and beyond, who have not been able to launch. And there seems to be a lot more in this generation than there was in previous generations. Now, you could say the economy has a lot to do with it, and for some it is. But there's more than that, because there's a lot of kids who have launched, who are of the same age. There's something else going on. And that is one of the things I wanted to address today. As part of this ongoing series regarding motherhood and women, and in particular, even though it also can apply to men, I'm kind of focusing on the women. Because our role traditionally in society is to be the nurturer. But when we end up going out of balance with that, it creates problems. So one of the problems that it creates is a child's inability to launch. So here's how that happens. We have what we call the dark side, our masculine abilities. In the keys of compassion, one of them, the fifth key, is called dancing with the dark. And what that really means is dancing with our dark or masculine side. We call it dark because if you're looking at, light and dark as far as the chakra system goes in the body, you have your upper chakras and your lower chakras. Your upper chakras are about intuition and feeling, and so we tend to look at the emotional part as feminine, and the more aggressive, assertive, manifesting money, protection, all that as the masculine side. So upper would be considered feminine and lower would be considered masculine. Now, all of these are necessary, but the problem is if a women are given a belief around using their masculine abilities, their ability to protect, their ability to manifest, to set boundaries, to say no, to be healthily selfish. All those are things we have a problem with. And it's funny because when we hit, so we're taught to be nurturers. We're taught to give and give and give and give. And in particular, society praises us when we give and give and give, and we don't complain and we don't whine. You look at all these role models, Mother Teresa and people like that who supposedly never complained, just gave. Well, we have an epidemic of breast cancer in this country. And I think it's because the planetary frequency is rising, and we can no longer sustain the amount of resentment and bitterness that we feel from over-nurturing other people and under-nurturing ourselves. What that creates is this imbalance that then develops as breast cancer. The other thing we have is children who fail to launch. Here's why. Because we're told that we're not supposed to use our masculine side. We're not supposed to be selfish. We're not supposed to speak up and get in your face. We're not supposed to be, going out there and getting what we want, unless we're doing it for you, unless we're doing it for somebody else. We can do it then, but we can't do it for ourselves. What we end up with is being resentful of all the people who do. And we're resentful of all the people who receive from us. It's like we're mad at our husbands because, Our husbands are receiving. They're getting their motorcycles at 40 and their new Corvettes and, going off on their golf trips while we're still at home taking care of the kids and, being for them. And we just cease with resentment. And we wonder why, and then when it comes to the kids, say you have one child. And maybe there's one child of all of your kids who seems to be more sympathetic to your plight. Well, we end up, not intentionally, but we end up dumping all of our judgment and our anger and our pain on them, talking about how selfish their dad is, or how selfish your boss is at work, or the neighbor down the street, or this or that. In other words, we're sending a message to these kids that using their dark side is not good. So not wanting to cause mom more pain or risk mom talking about them the same way, the kid will stifle those abilities. They won't be assertive. They'll be like their mother. They'll give and give and give, hoping that the other person will somehow be grateful enough to read their minds and give them what they want, so that they don't ever have to be accused of being selfish. So we stifle these children's ability to use their masculine side by talking negatively about others who have used their masculine side, either in a balanced or unbalanced manner. If it's balanced, it's because we resent that they're getting their needs met and we're not. If it's unbalanced, well, okay, we're really attacking them because we think they're being overly selfish. But either way, when we negatively judge others and how the others use their dark side around our children, and we do it in a chronic manner, and we're filled with resentment and bitterness, we send the message to that empathetic, sensitive child that using those abilities are not okay. And then when they hit their 20s, they're scared to death to leave home because they will risk our rejection if they do it wrong. So if you have a child who's failed to launch, solutions. Number one, take a look at your perspective around selfishness. If that makes you go, then you're not being healthily selfish. You're not asking for what you want, and you're probably angry. Would make sense. And secondly, look at the higher perspective on being selfish. There's a higher perspective. It's written in Dancing with the Dark. And third, begin to reintegrate those abilities. Speak up, ask what you want for you, not for everybody else. I mean, you already know how to do that, but for you. And I mean, that's easier said than done, but it needs to be done, because if your kid is still at home and they're in their 20s, you don't want them there when they're 30s, and you don't want them there when they're 40s, because the longer a child stays at home, the longer they're going to feel inadequate, and the more they're going to feel ashamed, and that will lead them to depression and possibly self-destructive behaviors. And it's no life for them to live. They need a role model. They need you to show them the way out. They need you to learn to be for yourself, and that way they'll learn how to be for themselves. So, I hope that isn't too confusing. It's very convoluted at times. If you want help, we do the Emotional Clearing Teleconference, and this next one we're going to devote to failure to launch. It'll be June 15th. I'll talk to you next week.